Every small town has its secrets, its whispers that travel on the wind through quiet streets after dark. My hometown, nestled deep in the shadow of the sprawling Blackwood Forest, is no different. We have a story, a legend so ingrained in our history that it feels more like a memory. It's the story of the thing that lives in the woods. They call it the Blackwood Echo. The story starts, as many do, with a tragedy. Back in the early 1900s, this area was a bustling logging community. The forest provided for everyone. But it also took one bitter winter. A young boy named Thomas went missing. He was the son of the logging foreman, a kid known for his love of the woods, always wandering off to collect pine cones or watch the deer. When a blizzard hit unexpectedly, Thomas was caught out in the open. The whole town searched 4 days. They combed every inch of the familiar trails, calling his name until their voices were rough. But all they ever found was a single, small, leather boot, half buried in a snowdrift near an ancient, hollowed-out oak tree. Thomas was never seen again. The official story was that he succumbed to the cold, his body lost to the wilderness. But the loggers, the men who knew the forest's every mood, they told a different tale. They spoke of strange sounds they'd heard in the weeks leading up to the boy's disappearance. Not the howl of a wolf or the cry of a mountain lion. It was something else, a sound that mimicked the world around it, but was always slightly off. The sharp crack of a falling branch when no trees were moving. The gentle gurgle of a stream where no water flowed. And most unsettling of all, the faint, distorted echo of a child's laughter. Even when the woods were empty, after Thomas vanished, the sounds grew more frequent, more distinct. The loggers started calling it the echo. They said it was the spirit of the forest, or maybe something older, something that had been awakened. They claimed it had taken the boy, and now it was using his voice. Over the next few decades, the legend of the Blackwood Echo solidified. People reported seeing things at the edge of the tree. A tall, gaunt figure, impossibly thin, that seemed to blend in with the tree trunks. Its limbs were too long, moving with a jerky, unnatural gait. No one ever got a clear look. It was always just a glimpse, a fleeting shape in the periphery, gone before you could be sure of what you saw. My grandfather was a firm believer. He told me a story from when he was a teenager in the 1950s. He and his friends had dared each other to camp near the old hollow oak, the one where Thomas's boot was found. They built a big bonfire, telling ghost stories to keep their courage up. As the night deepened, the forest fell silent. Too silent. That's when they heard it. A soft weeping sound, coming from just beyond the firelight. It sounded exactly like a young boy crying for his mother. My grandfather said his friends started to get up, wanting to help, but he grabbed them, holding them back. He remembered the stories. He knew that sound wasn't real. As they sat frozen in fear, the crying slowly morphed. It twisted into a perfect imitation of his own mother's voice, calling his name, telling him to come home, that dinner was ready. He said that was the most terrifying part. It wasn't just a random sound. It knew his name. It was personal. They packed up their gear in a blind panic and ran all the way back to town, not stopping until the streetlights were in sight. He never went camping in Blackwood Forest again. As the town modernized and the logging industry faded, the story of the echo should have faded with it, but it didn't. It adapted in the 80s and 90s. With the rise of home video, a few grainy, shaky recordings surfaced. One infamous tape, known locally as the hiker's footage, shows a group of friends on a trail. The camera is shaky, but you can hear them laughing and joking. Then, the conversation stops. The camera pans wildly towards the trees. For a split second, you can see it. A tall, dark shape, standing between two pines. It's there, and then it's gone. The rest of the tape is just the sound of panicked breathing and running footsteps. Skeptics, of course, have explanations for everything. The sounds are just wind tunnels, or the calls of a rare bird. The sightings are tricks of the light, misidentified animals, or outright hoaxes. The hiker's footage is just a person in a suit, a prank played on a gullible town. And they might be right. But it is hard to explain away the feeling you get when you stand at the edge of Blackwood Forest as dusk begins to fall. There is a heavy stillness to the air, a sense of being watched. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves, makes the hair on your arms stand up. Is it just your imagination, fueled by a lifetime of hearing these stories? Or is it something more? The most recent encounter happened just a few years ago. A couple, new to town, went for a walk with their dog, a golden retriever. They let it off the leash. The dog, chasing a squirrel, bounded into the trees. A minute later, they heard it yelp. They called for it, but it didn't come back. They searched for an hour, their calls growing more and more frantic. Just as they were about to give up and call for help, Tay heard Italiano, the dog's happy bark, coming from deeper in the woods. Relieved, they followed the sound. But the barks kept moving, always just a little further away, leading them off the path into the dense, unfamiliar undergrowth. The husband, getting a bad feeling, stopped his wife. He said it didn't sound right. The bark was too perfect, too repetitive. It was anho. They turned and fled, leaving the woods behind. They never saw their dog again. So what is the Blackwood Echo? A ghost? A creature? A collective hallucination born from a century of grief and fear. I don't have the answer. All I know is that the people who live here respect the woods. We don't wander off the trails. We're always home before dark. And if we hear a familiar voice calling from the trees, we don't answer. We just walk a little faster. Because in my hometown, some stories feel a little too real to be just legends. What about your hometown? Do you have a story like this? A local legend that makes you think twice about what's lurking in the shadows? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into local lore, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the places you thought you knew.